the economic modalities, especially in the southern colonies, could most aptly be characterized as...
There's this guy at every dinner party. Every friend group has one. He's the person who, the moment any topic comes up, geopolitics, nutrition, quantum physics, the economy, leans forward with this confident look and just starts talking. And the wild thing, he sounds like he knows exactly what he's talking about. But here's the thing I keep thinking about. What if knowing a little about everything is actually making us worse at understanding anything? There's a psychological phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Most people have heard of it. It basically describes the moment when someone knows just enough about a topic to feel like an expert, but not enough to realize how much they're missing. And I think we are living through the golden age of Dunning-Kruger. Not because people are dumb, actually the opposite. People are consuming more information than any generation in human history. The average person watches somewhere between 40 minutes and an hour of YouTube per day. They're listening to podcasts on their commute. They're scrolling through explainer threads on Reddit. They are technically learning constantly. But there's a difference between consuming information and actually understanding something. And that difference is getting harder and harder to notice because the information feels so good going in. When you watch a 12-minute video about how the Federal Reserve works, your brain registers that as learning. You feel the satisfaction of it. You finish the video and you feel like you understand monetary policy now. But what actually happened is you got a map of the territory without ever setting foot inside it.
So what?
So what? So plenty.
This wasn't always the default mode of learning. Go back 50 years and the average person had deep knowledge about a narrow range of things, and that was it. If you wanted to know something outside that range, you had to go find a book, a person, or a library. The friction of getting information was high enough that you only did it when you genuinely wanted to know. Then the internet happened, then search engines, then YouTube, then the algorithm. And here's the thing about the algorithm that nobody talks about enough. It wasn't built to make you learn. It was built to make you stay. Those are not the same objective. An algorithm optimizing for watch time will always favor the video that makes you feel like you learned something over the video that actually teaches you something. Because the video that actually teaches you something is harder. It's slower. It requires more of you. The YouTube version of how the economy works will almost always beat the economics textbook in terms of how it makes you feel in the short term. And over time, we've all been quietly trained to prefer the feeling of learning over the process of it. I want to get specific here because I think this is where it gets interesting. Surface knowledge has a very particular texture. When you have it, conversations feel great. You can engage with almost any topic. You can nod along. You can contribute. You can even push back a little. It feels like intellectual fluency. But the moment someone asks you to go one level deeper, to actually explain the mechanism, to work through the edge cases, to make a prediction based on what you know, something strange happens. The words start to run out. You find yourself reaching for the same 3 talking points.
But why male models?
And then you realize those talking points came from the same video you watched 6 months ago, and you're not even sure you remember it correctly. Real knowledge has a different feeling. It's not fluent in the same smooth way. Real knowledge includes the confusion you worked through to get there. It includes the thing you got wrong at first. It includes the counter-argument you had to sit with for a while before you could actually respond to it. That friction is not a bug in the learning process. It's where the actual understanding gets built. When you skip the friction, when you let someone else chew the information and hand it to you pre-digested, you get the shape of the knowledge without the substance of it. Here's the thing that makes this hard to fix. The content that actually teaches you is almost always less fun than the content that makes you feel like you're learning. And this is not a moral failing. This is just how human brains work. Our brains are wired to seek reward with minimum effort. The dopamine hit from a well-produced explainer video is real. The slight discomfort of working through something genuinely difficult is also real. And when you're choosing what to watch on a Tuesday night after work, one of those is going to win almost every time. The problem is that the content creators, and I'm including myself in this, are incentivized to keep you watching, not to make you an expert. keeping you watching and making you an expert are usually in conflict. The video that would actually make you understand macroeconomics would lose 80% of its audience in the first 5 minutes. So instead, you get the version that holds your attention, the version with the fast cuts and the dramatic music and the simple 3-part framework that feels satisfying and complete. And here's what's sneaky about it. It's not like that content is lying to you. It's usually technically accurate. It's just incomplete in a way that's invisible to you if you've never gone deeper. You don't know what's missing because you don't know what you don't know. So what's the actual cost of all this? Why does it matter if people have a lot of surface knowledge? A few things. The first one is decision making. When you make decisions based on a half-understood version of something, in your finances, your health, your relationships, you're operating with a map that looks complete but has huge blank spots. And the blank spots are the most dangerous part because you don't know they're there. The second cost is that it makes real expertise invisible. When everyone can talk confidently about everything, the person who has actually spent 10 years deeply understanding one thing has no social advantage. Their hesitation, their caveats, their refusal to make sweeping claims, those things start to look like weakness instead of rigor. The confident generalist beats the uncertain expert in almost every dinner table conversation, and over time we start to unconsciously prefer the generalist. The third cost is personal. When your relationship with learning is primarily about consuming content rather than genuinely understanding things, you lose something. There's a kind of satisfaction that comes from actually mastering something that you can't replicate from watching someone else explain it. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that feeling exists. I want to be clear about something before we get to the end of this. I'm not arguing that YouTube is bad or that short-form content has no value. Some of the best introductions to ideas I've ever encountered came from videos. A great explainer can genuinely open a door into a topic you never would have found otherwise. That matters. The issue isn't the medium. The issue is when the introduction becomes the whole relationship. When the podcast episode about Stoicism replaces actually reading Marcus Aurelius. When the summary becomes the thing. The video is supposed to make you want to go further. And for a lot of people it doesn't. It just makes you feel like you already did. The most interesting people I've ever talked to are not the people who know something about everything. They're the people who know one or two things extraordinarily well, and whose understanding of those things gives them a way of seeing everything else that's sharper and more interesting than anything you'd get from a generalist. There's a version of intellectual life where you go deep on things, where you sit with the confusion long enough for it to turn into understanding, where you read the book and not just the summary, where you follow the curiosity past the point where it stops being entertaining. That version is less optimized for conversations at parties. You'll know less topics. You'll have more moments of genuine uncertainty. But the things you do know, you'll actually know them. And that's a different experience entirely. So I'll leave you with a question that I've been sitting with myself, and I don't have a clean answer for it. When was the last time you learned something in a way that was actually hard? Not uncomfortable in a productive video essay way. Hard in the way where you had to stop and go back and try again. If you can't remember, that might be worth thinking about.